Well, hey, man.
How's it going? How's it going?
Good, dude. How you doing?
Great. We've had about an hour warm up session to this.
I'm so glad you're here, dude.
I'm glad to be here.
I miss your face.
Big Daddy Duke's got the feels. I know this is fantastic. We got going on. It's good to see good people do well. I mean, God, how long have we known each other realistically? Because I think
honestly, at least 10 years.
Yeah, I think the first time I met you was
I actually was gonna tell that story. Do you remember?
it was like when I was going to high school here, actually. So definitely at least 10 years. I'm 28 years old now. The Frisbee golf course.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Here, pull that thing down a little closer to you. There
Yeah,
you
the
go.
Frisbee golf course.
So I don't remember the Frisbee golf course.
Okay.
Or are you talking about the one in St. Cloud?
No, the one here.
The one here.
The one here.
Okay.
I think Bobby and Andrew and I were just like coming back out because like what we do is that we just like go out, we play the first few holes, and then there's that one with the picnic table underneath the shade, and then we just get a little bit sauced, and then we're like, well, we can continue with our day, or we can go back. And we ran. I remember running into you for the first time when we were coming back.
That's
coming
funny.
Back out to the car. Okay.
The first time I remember is in St. Cloud. Bobby was like, hey, would you mind giving my friend a ride? He's stuck in St. Cloud. And I was like, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
And it was behind that Buffalo Wild Wings. I was there with a bunch of dudes skating, and we were filming.
Okay. Yep. Okay. It's coming back.
Yeah, see, this
It's
one was a
coming back.
long time ago.
Yeah.
So we were filming this skate video, and my friend's doing this gap, and there was a TV there. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to like have a TV explode for a shot. Which it did look cool. But I threw it, and there just so happened to be like the wrong people walking by when it happened. So it explodes. I'm like, hell yeah.
Oh.
And then I go back over to my car where the camera was recording, or one of the cameras, to stop recording. And you go, I think that it's calling the cops. And we looked over, and there was this old guy like pointing at the scene on the phone. I was like, God damn it. So he threw like, God, must have been 4 skaters plus you in this car.
See, like I was never a skater.
Yeah.
I was a spectator.
Right.
I was the kid who would just like sit off to the side and smoke bad cigarettes with an even worse haircut.
And so that's my first memory of you. And then yeah, from then on out, like I would just see you at things and be like, hey. So we had that like acquaintance where we'd be like, what's up? Good people.
Yes, very, very much so.
And then yeah, once I started doing concert photography is when we like really like reconnected.
Yeah, I remember running into you and Kim at New Amsterdam one time. I forget what show it was, man. God, did you ever see After the Burial there?
I was gonna say it was After the Burial or
Yeah.
August Burns Red, something like that.
No, I never saw August Burns Red at New Amsterdam. Funny though, I ended up working for them at Skyway Theater a couple years ago.
Really?
Yeah, getting into working in the music industry, like obviously you know that I make music, I produce music, but when I lived in the Twin Cities, I worked for.
Oh, we didn't even introduce who you are.
Oh no, we didn't.
Jerrod, Jerrod Michael?
Jerrod Michael, hello. Jerrod Michael. I produce music as Illuminary. Electronic music, I kind of like bounce between things like trap has more of a hip hop influence. I've been making dubstep lately. I make future bass, kind of like more melodic sort of stuff. I screw around in house. I make hip hop beats, just kind of whatever I'm feeling at the time, like is what'll come out.
Just a sassy bitch.
Sassy. I was gonna ask, can we curse on this?
Oh hell yeah!
Fuck. All right. Okay. But before that, I definitely cut my teeth in the local metal core scene. The scene kids, swoopy hair.
Yeah.
God. And then all of us.
You were drumming for a while, right?
Oh, so the last time I realistically drummed for a band, it was a band in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it started off as a band called Anaheim in Ruins, just sort of kind of like a joke name. Like I think my buddy Andrew and I came up with it at maybe 5 a.m. in the morning after rage adding a bunch of people on our band's MySpace. And like, yep, Anaheim in Ruins. So it's and then that evolved into another band called Borders. And I live in Alexandria now. I'm back in Alexandria. So around that period of my life, it was like I was jamming with my buddy AJ, the guitar player, and he, at the time he's sort of like a studio mastermind. Sort of, we were all just like kind of figuring things out at this point. But just the one problem that we'd have, dude, it's just you gotta find a drummer who could really put this down. And I got so tired of just like looking around. And then one day, I just after washing so many dishes, just bought that drum kit, and I just started doing the drumming myself. And in retrospect, the kind of sound that we had during that time period, if we were to keep going with that sound, there's like a really popular sound in hardcore bands. Like there's bands like Knocked Loose and Varials, just sort of like just like really kind of like down tuned, just super super heavy stuff. But around the time in Minnesota is that like we were playing like really angry, abrasive, heavy stuff that was super down tuned like that. So I caught myself thinking a couple times. I was like, like if we just like hung in there, we could have essentially pioneered this entire type of sound that's just became the thing today. I mean, I remember, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, Knocked Loose put out that music video for a song called The Gospel.
Oh yeah.
And I went and hung out with some friends. It was called the 2848. I think it's in Shakopee. It's just been so much time has spent since between like then and now, and so many of my brain cells have just been burned. They're like placing exact, locations and stuff. It becomes difficult, but I still have the memories.
Yeah.
I showed them this music video, and I told them, I was like, guys, I swear on my life, watch, this is going to be the next big thing. And it was. It was.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I had one of those moments where it's like, a lot of people are like, they get really angsty about an artist that they listen to way back in the day that just blows up like crazy out of nowhere, and they'll be like, I was here first, I think Breaking Benjamin was like another really big one too. Wow. God, I think the second album that my dad ever bought for me in my life was their second album. Because like I heard their one
song. It's a fucking banger.
It is like
even Polyamorous wasn't a terrible album.
No, it wasn't a terrible album.
But the production on the second album was fucking wild.
Right. I still bang it. All that music, dude, it doesn't just go away. I'm down with the sickness. I'm 28 and still down with the sickness.
But I mean, like Breaking Benjamin, like it's weird. Like they're so. It's not that people hate on them, but they very quickly disregard them. You know what I mean? Like it's very like dismissive. Like, yeah, I mean, I remember hearing a couple songs. They don't really give a shit, but the depth that those guys go into on songs, they have. I get that they have the same pattern pretty much for every track, but
I mean that's just what all music is essentially.
Just like but theirs is like. It's very predictable.
Yeah.
So like,
there's money in it.
Yeah, that's true.
There's money in it. It's what sells, and for the average listener, like I feel as a music producer, I don't listen to music the same way other people do. So like I do pick out those patterns and everything, but it's like, what pattern is it? Like it could be a D minor, and then it goes to it goes to a major part right here. Okay, so we have like intro, chorus, pre-chorus, chorus, second verse, pre-chorus, chorus, breakdown, blah blah, third chorus. It is a very predictable pattern, but the average listener, they don't.
That's true.
Yeah, the average listener doesn't like being taken in like a million different directions and stuff. Like we, for sure that I work for this band called Hairball, and when I first started, the drummer that I was teching for at the time, Blake was really into progressive music. So
Hairball, is that the cover band?
Yeah, the cover band.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest in the country. So freaking cool. I'm awesome, not to mention incredibly handsome. That's why they gave the job to me in the first place. They're like, we need at least one dude with face tattoos to like up our cred. And I was like, here I am. And I'm a guitar player.
Right.
Like first and foremost. So like when I got that job, I kind of like had to teach myself how to get into like a drum technician's like my mindset, I guess. The one drum kit that I had, the band that I drummed for in high school, it was a snare, it was one rack tom, one floor tom, one kick drum. So I went from that to like literally a 15-piece kit with a million things, and it's like I gotta learn how to work on this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. But Blake was really into progressive music, and so when we go out and we drink in Des Moines after we do the state fair.
Okay.
There is obviously when they have the touch tunes on there, people aren't gonna dig listening to 11-minute Dream Theater songs in a bar. I think there was one time I remember he played this song by an artist called Opeth. Opeth is from the Swedish death metal. So Blake played this song and we heard everything disappear. And then it comes back to club music. Lo and behold, we look off yonder. Somebody unplugged the touch tunes and plugged it back in. Bam, we got ASAP Ferg. So that's what I'm saying is that like the common music consumer is they're not gonna like really dig those like really really long epic songs where it feels like you're reading an entire book but you're just still listening to it. So those very predictable song structures, and everything. Yeah. They make money. It's a lot easier for a person to listen to.
Sure. What's wild is when I was 13, I don't know what record label Opeth was on first, but
I know they were on Roadrunner for a long time.
Okay, that makes sense. But
so was Nickelback.
they had like a street team that was going out to skate parks and handing out tapes.
Hustle, dude.
So I remember having a tape of Opeth and listening to it and being like, what the fuck is this? And I just thought it was absolutely insane. And so like every time somebody brings them up, I'm always like, that's the first memory I have. I was 13, just getting a random fucking tape.
Yeah. And that's another thing that's like really changed a lot about music and getting it out there. Definitely back in the day when CDs were more of a thing before like the whole streaming phenomenon happened. Like to get your music out, you had to hustle. Yeah. Like I used to be really into this band called Nile. They're a technical death metal band, and pretty much the whole
Are they a technical death metal band? Or are they technically a death metal band?
Both. Their songs are extremely hard. They're playing really crazy, like Phrygian and Snake Charmer scales, and it's just really, really heavy.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Oh my god! I know that's going to be the whole podcast is me adjusting my mic and asking you questions.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what gent is.
Gent.
Yeah.
So the best way that I could describe it is take the Nothing album from Meshuggah.
Okay.
And just explode every part of it out in the worst possible direction that you can.
So it's like jazz, but for
it's definitely more rhythm based. Like the guitars have like a very distinct kind of tone to them. And just like what is written and what is being played is like like everything is very syncopated and very technical.
Okay.
So then like the term came about just because the tone that the guitars have and what they're playing.
Oh, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That became like the whole gent phenomenon, and that album from Meshuggah was like the first kind of really, in my opinion, I mean, there could be some people that could listen to this later and say that like you're entirely wrong, you're full of shit, you don't know anything, but it's like, I may produce dubstep, but I got 2 Pantera tattoos on my head.
Yeah.
We got, I don't know which camera will catch it, but we got my Deftones White Pony right here, on the wrist, so it's like I grew up with like the heavier music, and
well, I mean, like from what I've seen, like some of the best producers were I know this is stupid, but like quote unquote musicians first.
Yeah.
And like you look at like Skrillex, that dude knows how to play tons of different instruments.
that man.
Sunny.
Still to this day, the best show in my life I've ever been to. As cliche and cringe as that might sound.
But the dude, like, that's what he puts his effort into, is making sure that, like, so he was like one of the first people that had to deal with that stereotype of like, you're just clicking on a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to make sure that he immersed people in this different world for his shows.
And like the sounds that he used in ways people haven't like really at the time thought about using them in, and when you look at it in the broader sense, he didn't reinvent the wheel, but he was definitely someone who pushed that wheel forward. And like you said, I think it really attributes to the fact that like he's had a different background. Like he came up in from first to last. He's been touring and doing music since he's like 14, 15 years old. He was really, really young.
The first time he played on stage was with Pennywise. He talked them into letting
That's
him.
right. I saw that. And he rocked that shit.
Yeah. It's fucking wild to think that, like, I don't know that you could do that now. Like, there's the gimmicky, like, clickbait shit where bands will have audience members come up and do shit. But, like, the way that he did it, like, waiting around till the band showed up and just saying, I know how to play it. Can you let me play?
Yeah.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah, no one can do that.
Yeah.
Security will have your ass drug out.
Or, I mean, people are already so, like, their lives are so broadcast that by the time they get to a venue, like, you're already on high alert.
Yeah.
And you know that people are going to come up and they're going to try and say, like, oh my God, I saw you were in Tennessee last night. That looked really fun. And, like, shit like that. And you're like, yeah, can we pretend that, like, you don't know where I am at all times? And
yeah, I mean... I will say a couple years ago, I was actually flown out to St. Louis to play support for an artist named Virtual Riot. And I pretty much now, in retrospect, know that I got the slap because of the person who was managing me at the time was like putting together his own show.
Okay.
So he's like, I'm going to bring my boy out. And it was...
Did he say that creepily? I'm going to bring my boy out.
I'm going to bring my boy out. Yeah, he's going to draw them bass. I love you, David. But it was really weird for me too, because I had like a couple moments when I showed up like that where like I showed up, and like from the tattoo, everything, and like it's a very big part of like my image as an artist. Like people see me, they see the tattoos, they're like, oh, at the time I was Shambra. But like,
that's right.
Yeah, but like when I got there was a couple people that I met that knew who I was already by name. Like how was your flight? And like it was really kind of like weird, because it's the first experience that I've ever had that like I'm meeting a complete stranger, don't know your name at all or anything about you, but they engage me and they come to me from a place that's like we're already best friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's very jading, and I think a lot of people at that stage in their career, when they first experience that, it can kind of like develop into something that kind of like inflates ego.
Oh, for sure.
So after that show, like after I played, I definitely know I had to have a moment to like kind of like sit around and like, come back to myself. And just be mindful of where I was. Like this is a great opportunity. Like definitely, like still eternally grateful for the opportunity. I had an amazing time, but just consciously like keep reminding myself that like because you've had these kind of like experiences now in these interactions, it doesn't mean that like you're the end all be all man.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's very weird. It's very odd. It's nice. Like when I, at one point my Instagram had blown up from concert photography, and it ended up having to get deleted at one point and kind of revamped and yada yada. But people thought that my name was Landon, which was nice. So it was like,
it's my kiddo.
It was an instant reminder of like, oh, you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like, I never had that, but like there were people that like definitely, because I mean, so one time I was shooting at a venue and this girl was talking about some photos that she had seen of mine. And she was like, I see you at shows and I love your man bun. And she grabbed my bun and like pulled it back. I was like, I wanted to be like, I don't fucking know you, but I was so jarred. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And luckily, I found out she was under 21 because I walked upstairs and went into the 21 section and she couldn't go in.
Oh boy.
I was like, fuck, man, this is, it's an odd time to like, it's incredible to be able to like see things. And for me, like, it's amazing to learn the shit that you do from what artists share, but it's also super fucking weird to feel like you know somebody because you're basically getting to flip through their photo album, like their family photo album on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. And like in music, it's kind of like the same thing. Like I showed you that one song earlier, the kind of like Club Your House Your song. Like I like that entire song. It's kind of like written from a perspective where the first part of it is like someone from my perspective who deals with things like mental illness and depression and things of suicide. You know, but by the time that the second verse comes around, it comes from a perspective of someone who is your support system in your life, and it turns it into a message of hope. And you know, like everybody can do any kind of like job that they're doing. Like at the end of the day, like we were talking earlier about like work and stuff, where I work in a metal shop. It's humbling. Like I make like $16.50 an hour. I don't really necessarily enjoy doing my job. You know, and at the end of the day, if that becomes the thing that I do with the rest of my life, it's not, I'm building somebody else's dream. But when you do things like create art and create music, or for you in this instance, like creating a podcast, like you're creating culture. And when you create culture, it's essentially a way that like we could be dead and gone in like 30, 50 years or something, but it's like we're going to have these residual pieces of art and culture that we've created that will be emanating for as long as the internet exists.
That's very interesting.
As long as there's music. I mean, if you think about it, like classical music, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, still around, man, because like they created culture.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I fell in love with, like the idea of making music, is that like right now I'm creating culture, and in the culture that I'm immersed with, like club music and everything, you know, like we all love the songs about like partying and turning up and having a good time. But it's like, if I'm creating culture and creating a piece of auditory work that people can listen to, I want to put something out there that more closely reflects me.
Sure.
Like I want people to like be able to listen to a photo album. So like making that song was very cathartic for me, because like I said, you know, turning up and having like a great time, it's all great. But like at the end of the day, you know, we have an obligation, and we have a duty to be like, things like suicide and depression and mental illness, these types of things still need to be talked about. And especially in the climate that we're in right now, where everybody's locked inside. And
oh my God, yeah.
No, like, let's just say real quick that first full capacity function is going to hit so different.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, just like when we all have that moment where we're at that show that's packed to the brims, and hearing everybody sing along together, like everybody at these places they all have something in common.
Right.
You know, and we all have this one thing that connects every single one of us. And it's it's completely true.
Yeah.
Like it will never not be true. Like any kind of like live music experience like that, everybody, like I could not know someone's name. I would have any idea who they are. We might look at each other when we're crossing each other on the sidewalk, or like, you know, across the street. But it's like, at the end of the day, if we all go to the same place and we share the same feeling, we could all be in one spot doing the same thing, and we can all feel the same things.
Yeah.
You know, so like by making that song, I want it to be able to have something that's real, that's something that I deal with, that I know that a lot of other people deal with too, that like kind of I want to think of it in a way is that like it brings me closer to people who's listening.
Yeah. I mean, so I wanted to bring this up. So you and I did a photo shoot. Shit, it's been 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah,
been a minute. But when we did that shoot, I remember you like casually telling me about kind of your life's story, and me being like, "What the fuck? I need like a week to go through all of the shit that you've been through. So if you're okay with it,
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like how I approach, how I think about and how I process those moments in my life then has definitely changed until now because it's like all the reading and the learning and stuff that I've done. So
Okay.
Definitely I'm open to it for sure, you know.
So tell me so you grew up in Alexandria then?
So I was born in Montevideo, and then through my early childhood, like my parents were separated before I was maybe 3 years old, and my mother was living in Alexandria, and my father was living in Wheaton with this woman that he was seeing at the time, who became the mother to my half sister Kiara.
Okay.
And then at about 5 years old, I kind of just like went outside one day after like dad told me, and they're like, hey, you know, like pack some stuff for the night and come outside. And there's this other woman there. Her name was Rhonda. Rhonda's since passed away a few years ago. Like I'm not, let's just say before we get any deeper into the story is that like, I don't want to make it seem like I am holding anybody responsible, or, you know, that I don't want anybody who could like watch this and listen to this think that like I think lesser of these people because of things that I've been through.
Oh, sure.
You know, so it's like from a really young age, I was kind of like brought up with the idea that this other woman that like I just met, that I came outside, and then the next night I'm living at her place, like this woman was supposed to be my mom. You know, so and then there's been
wait. Okay, so your dad like just suddenly took you and you just moved in with this other woman?
Yeah, because at the time I don't know if it was like if he was having an affair or anything like that, but it was
pull that guy down a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just like if there was like an affair or something happening, but it's like all of a sudden like we're not living with Lori anymore.
Wow.
You know, and like we're moving into this house, and like we told like when I got here and I said this is a beautiful home, houses that grow in piles of 2x4s, completely true. Like, if you ever see Fight Club, the dump that they lived in?
Oh, God,
you
yeah.
know, rusty nails everywhere, everything wooden, swelled, and shrank. Like, I think this house sold when we moved out of it. I was 12 years old. I think this house that we sold, that we lived in, that we sold, I think it sold for like $500.
Oh, my God.
And it was immediately condemned. Like...
So, I mean, God, was there like drug use?
No, I mean, my dad growing up, he was a prescription drug addict and an alcoholic, and there'd be times where he would like kind of go through heavy moments of like using his pain medication where he'd be really strung out and, you know, kind of like a different person, and then he'd put that down for a while, but then when he did, he'd pick up the drinking again. You know, so it was just like kind of like cycles going around with like those two things of like use, and then, you know, like I've never known a whole home. Like I've never.
I was gonna say, I feel like I remember you telling me that like you moved around a lot, and
well, I lived in this town from when I was about 4 years old to 12 years old, and then I lived in a town called Wendell, Minnesota. It's right by Fergus Falls, from about 12 and a half, 13 years old or so, and then I moved back to Alexandria at 16 with my mom, and then around when we first met, it was the middle of my senior year where I moved out from my mom's because like there was some conflict happening at home. Basically, I was young and I was like getting Social Security and stuff from the government to like help raise me, but I knew better. I had the entire world figured out. So I would take some of this. And
wait. Why did you have Social Security?
Because from like divorce and stuff, like my dad, he's always kind of like worked low income jobs and stuff like that. And then when I was about 12 to 13 years old, when we moved to Wendell, we did so to be close to my grandparents. My dad was disabled.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, my dad was disabled, and he was rear-ended when he was at a dead stop. I know a woman going about 58 miles an hour. Yeah, so and then we would get Social Security and he would get disability, but he would like pay all the bills and stuff that we would have to like just keep keep the roof over our head for the rest of the month. But then he's raising 2 growing boys. He just didn't have a lot left.
I mean, what was your, and I'm not saying like hindsight wise, I'm saying in the moment, what was it like living with your father? Like, Was he engaged, or like what did it seem like?
He did his best with what he had. Definitely coming from a retrospect sort of approach. He really did do the best that he could.
I'm saying not hindsight 2020.
Oh,
so that would be
in the time.
Yeah.
It was angry. Well, I was really angry. I was really bitter a lot. Just I didn't understand that because we didn't have a lot of like extra money to do things. Why I couldn't go out for sports or anything like that. So like that caused a lot of isolation in school with my peers. I was always like the kid who was like, I was around, I was there, but I just I just never really got to like do anything and like really kind of like engage and build, strong, meaningful relationships with kids that I grew up and like went to school with, so that caused like a lot of anger and a lot of bitterness. When I was in 7th grade, I went out for basketball for like 1 year, and then, Dad, like, bless his heart, he would take them like the not a lot of money that he had over a month, like for 1 month, and he saved it for like a period of a couple months. And so like when I was in 7th grade and my brother was in 8th grade, he was finally like, and especially just because we switched schools, we went to like a bigger school where my cousins were going to, like my cousins attended and everything. My dad was like, you know what, just like I think I need to do something for these boys to like kind of get them more out into there. So like I was in basketball for a year, and my brother was on football for a short while.
Okay.
I think he had like 3 or 4 practices, and then he actually ended up breaking his collarbone. So
Oh my God.
Yeah, so Jordan never got to play like an organized sport game or anything throughout his like entire tenure of being at school. And I was in basketball for a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So God, I'm just all the memories coming back, dude. Like I remember. I remember that. Funny.
You're
story.
such a sweet dude, and I mean you've been this way since I've known you, at least, which is to say that like you don't want someone to feel bad for you.
No, I'm not. I absolutely not at all.
And so I've heard you like downplay certain things, and I'm like, well, let's get sad for a second and just let me be there with you,
right?
For this fucking story,
right? But God, when I was really into when I went out for basketball for that year, I was so into it, dude. And like my dad, he would give me all the basketball movies, like the Coach Carter, and Hoosiers is like one of my favorites.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, like I think Hoosiers was probably like my favorite basketball film because like Jimmy the kid in there, he's like really quiet, kind of like really outsider, but he was, the dude was God on the court. He was absolutely incredible. So like I felt I really liked that movie because I could connect to that character a lot. Because my entire life before that, and even after that, like I've always identified as sort of like that outsider, and I wanted to do the basketball thing just because like I wanted to have like a better relationship with the people I was going to school with. But now that I think about it, like I did that just because like, maybe not just because a lot of it was attributed to that. Like I just wanted other people to like me. I wanted to have a lot more friends. And I wore ankle weights every day, dude. Like
whoa.
during class, like all the way up until basketball practice, I would have 20-pound ankle weights on my shit so I could run faster and I could jump higher.
No way.
I was the second tallest kid on my team, and I had the highest vertical. But because I wasn't regarded as a person of popularity, or my parents didn't work at the school or anything, I never got to jump, never got to start. I think that entire season I probably played for 11 minutes.
Oh my God.
I put up like 10 points though, so like when you think about that, so that kind of like made me angry because my coach was telling me that if you work hard during practices, you work hard during games, you'll earn your spot on this team. And I really felt that like I did that to the best of my ability. And still, when the season ended, we went 2-10 or something.
Yeah,
just an absolute garbage record. Like I was pretty upset about that. Like just this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I was really disappointed, and I decided not to go out for basketball the next year. But instead, I picked up the guitar, man. And just,
where'd you get the guitar from?
Like again, my dad, like he didn't have a lot of money, but he saved for a really long time, and he finally just he got me like the Best Buy starter special.
Okay,
kind of like it's like a Fender Strat that was like made out of plywood with like a really cheap bad amp and 3 picks and a even worse like instructional DVD. just absolute garbage. But no, like he did the very best he could, and he got me that. And then like starting in 8th grade, like learning how to like play and all that, then it was really kind of like interesting to experience, because instead of like just being like the weirdo outsider, everything that was like made fun of a lot, when the classes would end, and when I was in 8th grade and we'd have the few minutes before the bell, I'd bust the guitar out and everybody would like flock around me and just like want me to play stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and like I've like it's like I think about it in a way that it's like when I stopped doing things because I wanted to be accepted by everybody else, and I did something because I just wanted to be me and like do something that I was passionate about, that I knew that I loved. Like I've always loved music from a really young age, but like when I put aside this kind of, I've been reading a lot about like how people create false senses of self. And so like gravitating towards sports and everything, because you know like the girls like the girls liked the girls like the guys who like did well in basketball or played football.
They want to be Zac Efron.
Yep. They want to be Zac. They want to be. They gotta keep their head in the game. But like when I started like setting that aside and embracing what I really loved and what I was passionate about, and like kind of your own sense of individuality, like not embracing yourself, what it really means to be you, instead of like just other things that create a false sense of who you are. That's kind of like when people sort of like really gravitating around me, where it's like, oh, I wasn't really made fun of a lot too much anymore. You know, like I started having very like cordial relationships with like the people that I went to school from, but I mean, I'm still not. We didn't graduate high school and then just go stomping through the club or anything together. You know, and I've ran into a few of the people that I went to school there, where you know we talked about, they're like, hey, dude, you know, just like when we were growing up and we were kids, like I've definitely realized just how much I really gave you a hard time, and just like made school like a living hell, you know. And like I think a part of it kind of like attributes to that they can look at my Facebook or something right now where it's like I'm 28, I'm still doing music, like I'm still chasing after with my whole heart.
Yeah.
And this job, like 2019, we went to 35 different states.
Wow.
You know, yeah. So like I go to my 10-year high school reunion now. Like I'm gonna be like I think people would like generally regard me as like being a rock star, you know, because I didn't graduate from West Central and get a business degree at North Dakota State University and married my high school sweetheart and like settle down to like, kind of have like a predictable life. Sure. You know, I'm not about settling. I guess is that like, you know, I'm 28 and my mom was talking to me about this. She's like, you know, just like out of all my sons, there's just something about you where like you never gave up. You know, like my brother Travis now, like he has a family, which is like very, very good, because like Travis grew up without ever having his father in his life. You know, but now.
What do you mean?
Like I don't think Travis has ever actually met his real dad. They have no relationship.
Oh, so this is a half brother?
Yeah, Travis is my Travis is my half brother, but we have a really close relationship, so I just call him my brother.
I gotcha.
You
I was trying to figure out the one that you grew up with versus the.
Jordan is the brother that I grew up with.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, Jordan and I have the same mom, same dad, and then we grew up like until I was like 16 together in the same house. And I live with my brother Jordan now at my mom's place. And literally yesterday, like Jordan and I have a great relationship now too, you know, like growing up, because like of the things that we had to experience and, you know, our home life and all that, and not really having a consistent mother figure around, it kind of just like it brought different levels of just bitterness and anger, and to me a different degree than him. Like Jordan, when we were growing up, he had like a really bad temper, you know, and like there was times where he was like, you know, really violent, very short fused, but now it's just like a completely different person, you know, because we have both of our parents in our lives. And I think that's just something that like as we grew up, we decided that like, you know, my mom has like her issues with my dad has like issues likewise, but just because like these two people who are our parents have these types of issues, it doesn't mean that we have to, you know, like I want my dad and my mom around a lot. But no, Jordan and I have a great relationship. It's literally who I went to the gym with yesterday, and you know, like there's kind of like a moment on our drive back where like he's driving his truck he's got like a big Ram Duramax, and he looks at me. He's like, "I had a lot of fun today." I was like, dude, just like I did too. And we brought my TV from my bedroom into like my studio room, and he was like on the computer looking at bike parts and stuff, and I was like playing Warzone with the homies. And when he went to bed last night, he was like, "Love you." I'm like, he hasn't said that to me in years. Just because like we had that little bit of moment of like, exercising, working out. And honestly, like the dude's been trying to get me to do it for a long ass time. Like since I moved back in with my mom's, but like I would just, with the shit that I've been dealing with lately is that like I would stay up all night in my head, and Jordan works overnight. So like I'd be staying up all night, and then by the time that he gets home from like his overnight shift, it's kind of like right about when I just start to like go to sleep. And he asked me, she's like, "Hey, you want to go to the gym?" I'm like, "Hell no." Like I just watched 4 Star Wars movies in a row. I ate half of everything that's in my fridge. I'm not gonna go lift shit right now. We finally had that yesterday, and like I could definitely tell that it hit him different, because like I don't know how he does, but Jordan is like even more of a loner than me. Like he does, like he's sober too. Like he doesn't.
Okay.
He doesn't do any drugs. He hasn't had a drop of alcohol in like maybe 5 years.
Wow.
He doesn't like go out and hang out with other friends, but it's like when you go out into his room, he's just like Big Buddha George. Realistically, just like there's no problems.
Oh, nice, dude.
And it's like, how can I learn from that? Like, teach me, dude.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's a perfect, like, not necessarily backtrack, but I want to make sure, because sometimes people, when they listen to these and they don't necessarily know the guests that we have on, I try to make sure that they understand. Because when you say things like, school prospectively thinks I'm a rock star and like I've worked really hard on this music, some people perceive that as cockiness, but really, it's hard work. I just want to make sure people know that. Plus, when I was saying that you downplay stuff, it's interesting to then know. So like, when did you find out about your mental health issues?
I think it was 2015.
Oh,
I'm trying.
That's very recent, actually.
So like, I want to say 2015 because it's when I actually got like an official diagnosis. But like from being aware of mental health problems from a very, very young age, I think all the way up until about 5th grade, I was the kid who like after recess, every kid would like come back inside to the class, and like the teacher would read a little bit of a book each day. But during reading time, I was the one kid in my class that would be taken away to go see the counselor in the school and receive therapy. Actually, I did a little bit.
So what was that perceived? Like, what did you think that was?
I don't really. It's hard to say because I didn't think that it was because there was something like different than me, like different about me than like other people. So it was when I was doing it, I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why can't I get the book read to me today too? Because then when I come back to class, people will always just give me that kind of like bewildered look, like, where were you? Mm-hmm. What were you doing? Why do you get to talk to Mr. Strand a little bit more each day than the rest of us? And it's because of the things that Jordan and I have like dealt with from a very, very young age, and like going to school, like ever since preschool, like
what do you mean?
Like I think another way that I could put it in terms of is that like when we would have the days where it was mom day at school, everybody's moms got to come to class, not mine and Jordan. And like when we had the days where, like the dads come to school, dad couldn't do it because dad has to work. I've grown up never really having a lot, and just ever like still to this day, I don't have a single memory at all of my dad and my mom ever being in the same room. Not one.
Wow. That is wild.
You know, and so it's like, oh, like how come during like mom day at school, everybody else's moms can come, but I can't. And then my classmates would look at me in the same way and be like, why is Jerrod's mom not here?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, 3rd grade, 4th grade, we don't know any better. So that kind of became like a jumping point off of that. I would receive maybe not criticism, but like definitely be bullied over it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because I knew that like mom can't be here because like mom and dad aren't together, you know, and she can't make it, you know, and it's like I didn't yeah. it's
well,
kind
dude,
of it's kind of like difficult, you know, just like
it hits because that's why I want to bring this shit up, is because people hear us, people like us, right, talking about mental health and like how important it is, and it's because we deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we sound like perceptually confident, right? So because we've decided to own certain aspects of our mental health, it's misconstrued as like, oh, look how empowered they are and how confident they are. And it's like, you don't realize the hell that had to happen for us to come to even like close to where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, it's only within the last 6 months that like I've always been vocal about certain things and like depression, but I'm almost 34 and just fucking now like have the full scope of like what's truly wrong with me.
Right.
And so the fucking shit that takes to get to this point, we're open because we want to help other people.
Well, we want to essentially destigmatize it.
Yes, there we go. That's the word I was looking for.
You know, and especially just because like the borderline personality shit, which is like borderline personality and bipolar can be seen as like very similar to each other, but it's like my periods of mania and depression can literally happen in a sentence. Yeah. You know, because like a big part of borderline personality is that like I have serious abandonment issues, which when I was growing up, like mom can't be there, and like my dad and him and our entire side of that family was like they were kind of like putting this idea into my head that like mom left you, mom abandoned you, which wasn't true,
right?
You know, so like,
and you didn't find that out until later on, right?
No. I mean, not truly. I mean, there's been times where like I would read through transcripts of like when they were going through court and stuff like that, you know, and like,
how'd you find those?
They're just down in a box, locked away in the basement.
Oh my God.
You know, so like I think I was about 11 years old when I finally got to like read through all those and like kind of getting a sense of, you know, my dad was giving a testimony that like people would pick me and join up for my mom's place, and I'd be wearing a t-shirt that goes down past my knees with no underwear on and cowboy boots, you know, and the place is like being dirty and shit all the time. But like I don't really see that as like being my mom's fault, because my mom worked a lot, you know, and like she had other people around in her life who were seen as like male figures, or like were supposed to be father figures to us boys when we were there, but they were very abusive and they were very violent, you know.
And so, you do remember that?
No, I mean, I definitely feel like a lot of that is certainly repressed. You know, so then like I would see my mom every two weekends, and like mom couldn't be there because she's too busy working her ass off to try to pay child support for 2 boys. You know, and then I'd go back to my dad's, and my dad would just be like, you know, your mom's out partying all night and she's out drinking. She doesn't have anything. She doesn't want anything to fucking do with you. She's not a mom, you know, and like that's not true. But it's like when I think it's Freudian psychology where it says that like God, I'm gonna be hung if I'm wrong. Let's remove the Freudian term from it, but nature versus nurture.
Oh, sure.
We're like everything. It's nature. Everything starts in the brain, but after when you're about 4 years old, you become a product of your environment. So when you're a kid who's like 4 years old and your environment is like it's toxic and it's being reinforced by, you know, like what people are saying all the time, that becomes a part of your psyche. But now just lately it's easier for me to talk about it, you know, just number one is just like part of destigmatizing it, but like learning that, you know, everybody says that like I'm not ashamed of my past because the past makes me who I am. But like I think like now I definitely think that that's not true, and that you're creating a false sense of self where it's like any pain past 90 minutes that you're feeling is essentially old pain, and you don't realistically have problems. You have situations that you have that you have to deal with, where it's like the only moment where it becomes a problem is when you're choosing to allow it to become to a problem.
Do you suffer from anxiety at all?
Yeah, I
like generalized anxiety?
Yeah, when I was about 7, my therapist said that I have an anxiety disorder that puts my average stress level about 16 times higher than what normal people have emotional breakdowns at.
Jesus.
Yeah, so like when I would have my anxiety attacks, it's full on hyperventilating. Like, and very few people in my life have like actually experienced me have these moments. You know, where it's like I literally can't breathe and I have to sit in the corner and like with the bag and hyperventilate, and just kind of like my thoughts being a hamster wheel at any and all times. You know, it becomes really easy that like if I have a problem or like a negative stimulus, that like it could start as just like something so small and so menial, but by the end of the hour it will just completely blow up into something that's like absolute epic proportions.
Sure.
Where it's like I'm realizing now that a lot of my life that I've only done that because like I chose to do that, you know. And then I wasn't really made aware of my diagnosis with borderline personality until about 2015, where I'm
always interested in this when people find out like later on in life about is it, I forget the acronym for borderline, but whatever,
BPD.
Yeah, BPD. But so the thing that I'm interested in is how people treated you when you would be angry, or when you would be, you know, what we now know as mania, like having these manic episodes. Because for me, like the way that I was treated was like, looking back on it, it's like, oh, no, nobody knew what to do. And so,
yeah, see, and with BPD, there's no medication for it. There's like the only thing I can do is like treat it with cognitive behavioral therapy, which I received for a while. You know, I received it for a while, and it helped quite a bit. I took Zoloft for a while because to help with the depression, because like with what I have is that like,
which is fun thing about Zoloft. Side effects may include thoughts of suicide, which is super fun.
Yeah, I mean,
I was on that too.
Right. I mean, so in 2015, when I started getting therapy again, it was after a suicide attempt. Oh God. Well, no, I wouldn't really say that was a suicide attempt, but I definitely had a knife in my hands.
I was gonna say, so the Kim was describing this to me. They take that just as seriously as somebody just about to walk into traffic or just about to jump off a bridge. Like the thought you're starting to disrupt your fight or flight, because your instinct is to say survive, survive, survive. So when somebody gets to that point, they treat it the exact same way as somebody who just took a ton of pills. So like, it's all, I would say it counts because you've begun to disrupt that fight or flight. So the scary thing about it is, like, statistically speaking, like, you're that much more likely to try again. Yeah. Which I'm not trying to like fuck with you in that way, but like, that's why I have 3 suicide attempts, is because I disrupted it more, and then now it's just whatever.
My first one was at 11 years old, man.
You've had more than one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's right. So that's the thing is you're like,
I've had 3 actually.
Hey, look at twinsies.
But like, definitely in 2015, after I had that moment, I reached out to COPE, Minnesota COPE, and then they got me into like starting to like finding a therapist, finding a psychiatrist. And when I sat down and I told my psychiatrist at the time, like, basically a life story, he's like, I don't understand how you went from, you said 7th grade is when you stopped getting therapy in school. how have you made it to this point now without it? Because he's like, I definitely have you down as like you definitely do have borderline personality disorder. Just how he said that, how quickly you could say that my mood shifts, where it's like somebody could say one thing and I'll immediately like take it as abandonment, and then it becomes like he's sort of like.
I'm interested. Do you have like the self? So there's like catastrophizing, and then so I am a fuck up, therefore I'm going to fuck up.
Yeah,
but you still want somebody to be there for it.
It's like the way that he said it is that like your brain seems to have a kind of approach to a lot of your relationships in your life, especially for me, is that like I always have very tumultuous romantic relationships because I have a lot of abandonment issues, where it's like my brain is basically projecting this message onto this person that I love, me saying, I fucking hate you, please don't leave me.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so that's what I was trying to figure out was what that okay.
Yeah, you know, it's just like, I hate you, but don't leave me. And then he's like, and there's definitely things that I pick up where like you have OCD like tendencies.
Really?
Yeah. We're like, for me, it's I won't say that like I'm super like empath, but like I'm definitely a lot more in tune to like environments and stuff. Where if my room is a mess, like you know that I'm not.
Oh, interesting.
And a really big thing for me is that like it's not having everything completely perfect. It's that like I know where everything is at. For instance, like still now that like if I get mail or like I'm expecting a package or something, I know that the package is supposed to be either on like the front porch or the front or like the like kind of like landing in our house.
Sure.
So if I come home and I see that it's delivered and it's not there, just lose my shit. And then I go up, and then I go upstairs and it's on the table, or I will set one of my things one place and then somebody else will move it without telling me. That's a really, really huge thing that like sets me off too. And then he also said that like for the depression that I deal with, where it's like it's chronic, like it's
Sure.
it's honestly there every single day. Like I don't think I've had a day in.
Have you heard of dysthymia?
That's what I was just getting to.
Really?
Actually.
Okay.
He says that like I'm like, oh, your diagnosis is definitely dysthymia because it's chronic. It's where it's like I'm kind of just like riding a sort of like steady below average, but like when I have those moments, like when my BPD like really gets set off and I have the things like the abandonment issues come out, or the angry, when I dip, it's a fight for my life. Like I can't think of a day in my life for as long as I've been alive where I haven't thought about suicide. Like it's people have like reoccurring thoughts and stuff every day, and like mine is just like mine is suicide every day. And especially during this last summer with all of us being locked up and everything, like I'll stay up all night and just like I'll be in my head, and then I'll be looking at my phone like, when is Ace Hardware open, because I'm gonna go buy some rope and there's some woods 100 yards from my house every single day, you know.
I had a friend who said the only reason that he doesn't own a gun because even though he's not suicidal, having the mechanism there like definitive is scary to him. I mean, like I think about that too. Like my cousin had killed himself last year with a gun,
sorry to hear that, man.
And this was a month before my suicide attempt. And I remember when I heard about that, there was a couple things. First thing was like, yeah, I get it. And then the second thing was, it's a good thing I don't have a gun, because like that's exactly what would fucking happen.
Yeah, I mean, like at this point, I've like considered looking into options to where like, can I have it put on my file that I can't buy a firearm ever, because it's the same thing for me. They're like, if I had that there, how much I think about it on a day, like how much I've thought about it on a daily basis for as long as I've been alive. Like having that option there, it's not a safe thing.
Yeah.
For myself. Like I'm not a violent person. I'm not an angry person at all. So it's like I wouldn't. And then I don't know, that's kind of like another topic in and of itself, where it's like I think people who suffer from mental illness that like also have that there, that are angry and are violent and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think people, especially in this kind of like this political climate where we want to expand background checks for people who want to be able to have access to firearms because of that reason, you know. But it's like Biden's not going to go door to door and take your fucking guns away.
No shit.
You know, where it's like
it's so funny. People were always saying Obama was going to take their guns.
Yeah,
it's weird how they all still have their guns.
But it's like, but it's like the topic of conversation is that like when you do have somebody who is angry and has those sort of like violent tendencies and stuff, when these kind of people have access to a firearm and there's conflict, say like someone's talking shit in the street or a bar, because these people have that firearm on them, they're going to be the people to escalate it, because like they have that. It could be like my dad always said, it was like little man's got to have a gun to make himself feel bigger.
Short man syndrome.
Yeah. So it's like it's turning the topic of conversation about the like we need to have our society and everything to be able to protect itself from people who have some like this kind of mental illness that they project it onto other people. And if they have access to a firearm, then like, yeah, they're going to project onto people. They're going to escalate conflict because they see that like, because I have this here, it's always going to go my way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I forget what the statistic is, but there's a statistic that says people who own a gun, simply purchasing the gun, the likelihood of them using it at some point goes up like exponentially.
It does for sure. God, especially if they get a couple beers in them and their team loses the Super Bowl.
Well, not even that, like, and they don't know. I mean, you could say that this is like, I don't know, like the universe or whatever, but like, it's not even always in like an aggressive way. Like it's just somebody breaks into their home, and that now that dude is shot and now that dude's dead. It doesn't mean that individual was going to kill their entire family, but because they're in the home,
just one of their fucking TV,
which I get sucks. It's fucking terrifying, but it's just like it's just weird that like I get that correlation is not causation, but like it's just a weird statistic that's out there that is very odd. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's big government sending criminals into their homes. So I mean,
sending Antifa into my living room. Must be out of your son of a bitch and mine.
I mean, so, and I mean, the whole reason that you're here today is like you had kind of expressed like how people, and I'm not trying to throw like shade on anybody, but the people aren't necessarily reaching out, and maybe it's because you're in Alexandria. I don't know, but
yeah. I
mean, on top of that, like the thing that our brain does that says, okay, depression has kicked in, and now we need to sit in it. And then at the end of the day, we're going to feel horrible for not doing anything all day.
Yeah, and I think a lot lately is that like I've been practicing understanding that maybe people don't like reach out and like talk to me as much as they should because like I'm far away, but also I need to be able to understand and empathize that other people have their own shit going on too. Like I'm not the only one that's dealing with shit.
Oh, sure.
Literally everybody on the planet is dealing with some shit right now. You know, so like I need to be able to like reinforce to myself that like everybody has their own things going on, and just because you're not getting messages or everything being checked up on every single part of the day doesn't mean that people stopped caring about you.
Sure.
You know, so, and like the last 6-7 months has just been a really kind of like big period of like teaching me how to be okay with like being by myself. Mm-hmm. And especially just like lately in the past couple of weeks where, well, I think I started picking up reading a lot about a month and a half ago. I started reading a lot more and getting back into exercising. And, you know, like we were talking about January 6th is like my 2-year. I call it like the vegan anniversary.
Okay.
Vegan anniversary. But like, I definitely just say that like I'm just more plant based, because like everybody who like just starts doing something like that, they had like a couple like fuck ups, pitfalls, and everything. I'm still trying to like figure a lot of stuff out, and spending a lot of time alone and like kind of being up at my mom's place has a different sort of energy about it, where like it can be kind of difficult for me to get into like a headspace of like where I'm creative, like all creativity is like based out of a place in your mind called Eckhart Tolle calls it no mind.
Interesting.
Where he's saying that you're completely present and you're anchored in the moment. And that's what a lot of like what meditation is about, is that meditation brings you into the moment and into yourself to focus on your breathing and, your immediate surroundings. Because like I said before, anything past like 90 minutes or so is just old pain. So we create pain and we create resentment for ourselves by choosing to attach ourselves to something that has already happened and done. And when we attach ourselves to that and we bring it into our lives now, that is what's creating resistance and problems, And the past is depression, the future is anxiety. And like, and I'm not saying, and he's explaining that like there's nothing wrong with having goals. There's nothing wrong with like having things to look forward to for yourself, but life is about the journey, not the destination. And he says that like it's about the journey because it's about this moment right now. Everything that everybody is dealing with is meant to happen. What we're feeling, what we're dealing with, what we're processing, it's meant to happen, and we're like we can't deal with it in the future and we can't deal with it in the past, but we can deal with it right now. Yeah. So that's why being here and being present is the most important thing that one can do for themselves to help them grow spiritually and mentally. Where he says that like if somebody comes to you about something that they need to talk about or a problem that they're having with their life, the best possible thing that you can do is just not say anything and just listen and be there in the moment, because when you're there in the moment, you're able to empathize a lot more deeper. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. You're saying all of the right things.
Right. Well,
it's just interesting because, again, like to go back to when we have these discussions, like people like you and I are able to have these discussions because we already know that the other has some type of understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
For the listener, like, again, this is not to say that we've got it now figured out. Like, mental health shit is something that you live with for the rest of your life. So like,
yeah,
like you were talking about how, in your vegan journey, there's going to be slip ups and you can't know every single thing. It's the same thing with mental health stuff. Like we could know all of the things, but the chemical imbalance can still get the better of us sometimes.
It absolutely can. And there's nothing wrong with like having those moments where it does get the better of you, because like we're all human.
Yeah.
We're all human. We're allowed to have these periods of like where we have like slip ups or where we need help, and it's humbling. It's humbling to ask for help and to accept it. A lot of like because I was raised with the understanding that like to be seen needing help is a weak thing, and that's not true at all. To say that you need help and to be able to and willing to accept it, I think that's a very strong thing that people could do right now. And we need to be able to destigmatize that. We need to be able to take the negative sort of what am I trying to say here?
You take your time, man. I can always edit it, or I'll leave it all in and make you look like an idiot.
Definitely the second part. But like we need to kind of like lift. We need to be able to lift the veil off of people, and to be able to like help others understand that like while we do deal with these things, we are coming to the listener to a point of saying that like if you think you need help, then you do, and there's nothing wrong with that. And
pretending that you can drive without a steering wheel is kind of like the madness. Like that's the best way that I've thought of that really explains when somebody refuses to ask for help when they truly do need it. You're literally like, for somebody who's intuitive or for a friend or family member who knows them, it's like watching them try to drive without a steering wheel. It's like, Dan, I fucking know you need help. Just pull the fuck over.
Yeah, and just like another thing that Eckhart Tolle writes about is that like having those moments where you think to yourself where like I do need help, that is consciousness. And by denying that is unconsciousness. So like by being conscious of like you accepting and telling yourself that like you do have these things that you need to deal with and that you do need help with it, when you're able to be conscious of those feelings, the only way out of something is through it. So when you're when you're conscious of it, that begins a process in your brain to where like, okay, so like right now I am experiencing feelings of sadness. What is causing these things? How can I deal with it? And when you're able to answer all those, you're able to move into it and through it, which kind of like metaphorical story.
It's interesting to think of like being ignorant towards yourself. Like that's kind of what that sounds like to me. Is it's interesting to think that I'd never thought of it as being applicable to you, like being ignorant to your intuitions. Like people say, listen to your gut and shit like that. And when you're ignoring those things, you're being ignorant towards yourself rather than that acceptance.
And that makes it harder for people to like want to be able to reach out and like have help. Like we discussed about somebody that we mutually know earlier, that like you can see that they are aware of sadness and like feelings that they're experiencing, but they don't take steps to help themselves.
Right.
And like I think in that regard, it is being ignorant in a way. Like it's kind of you're kind of half awake is what I would want to say, is that like you knowing that you have knowing that you have issues and stuff that you need to deal with it, but like you choose not to deal with it,
right?
Because like they're not ready for it, and that's totally fine too. But it's like, when is that point of you not being ready to be able to help yourself? When does that turn into when is it too late? You know.
Do you ever watch Monty Python? Or do you know who?
When I was like this big,
this is better. So Harry Potter, there's that headless ghost.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he's from Monty Python. His name's John Cleese.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yep.
Very, very funny individual, but also very intelligent, well read, I would say. And I keep forgetting to look up the fucking person who said this, but he quotes this author who says, stupid people lack the capacity to recognize that they're stupid. And what that's really saying is when you're too deep in the throes of something, you lack the capacity to recognize that anything needs to be corrected. So when it comes to depression, when it comes to all of these things, when we're too deep in it, and that's what I was saying earlier, is like, body says we're depressed, we're sad, so we're going to be fucking sad for the rest of the day. Like for somebody who does not have these other intuitive things, or you've never been presented with them either in some cases, you just lack the capacity to recognize that you're supposed to even do something. And when people have like the behavioral stuff, it's they come to expect that people are going to view them a certain way. So even though I say this stuff, it doesn't really matter because they're going to view me a certain way anyways. I'll get like a moment of relief by saying, hey, this is going on. But why change anything if everybody's going to look at me the same?
Well, I mean, I think attaching yourself to like what people view you as experiencing these things, that is in turn, again, helping reinforce a false sense of self. Because what other people think of you doesn't make you you. If that makes sense, you know, or it's like
no.
You know,
the only thing that I was gonna throw to that is like the irony in people like you and I, where we care what people think because we feel that we're creating something worthwhile.
And that's all based on ego.
Okay.
You know, like people think that like people kind of attach the word ego to like, you know, you were talking about earlier where it's like, you know, when I talk about myself and my experiences and stuff, that it could come across to some people as cockiness. You know, where it's like I don't see it as cockiness, but it definitely does come from like a place of ego, and ego is just like how people perceive themselves, and the ego, it needs to be fed. The ego always needs to be fed, and the ego really likes low frequency damaging energy. So people who experience mental illness and stuff, they feed their ego by trapping themselves in this the kind of like negative mindsets.
I wonder if people get, like, I'm just kind of realizing, like, if ego happens like to a fault when people are, because it's a lot of times associated with a product or some type of tangible thing. So like something they can listen to, something they can look at, smell, taste, whatever. When you're under the guise of like, look at this thing, and you're showing people that this amazing thing, but what they see is, oh, you did this? Wow, I can't believe that you. And so like it's like tricky in that you have a shield, like you have kind of a wall that separates, like, it's, but this is a thing over here. I'm over here. But eventually you're like, yeah, I fucking made that thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, and then people attribute like ego, like having ego is like having a big head.
Oh, right.
You know, but it's like, it's true in a way. It's like in that sense of use of ego, having a big head can definitely be, you know, that's definitely accurate. But it's like what Eckhart Tolle is like explaining is that ego is just like ego is kind of like one's reinforcement, their idea of their sense of self. Where like for instance, like my ego would be definitely attributed to be like, I make music, I like vegan food, I like girls, I have 4 friends, I have this job, I have this cool car. So it's like, it's saying that like all these external things that are in my life that I have, that is ego.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and like ego is essentially like a false sense of self. So when you're having moments like I've definitely noticed like a lot lately, like this girl I've been seeing for quite a while, where it's like I feel like there's some times and there's some ways where I feel like I'm a little bit more conscious of feelings than she is, because like she has like, you know, she has a lot of things that she's dealing with as well for herself, and she feels bad. She says that it feels hard for her to talk to me about, you know, things that she's dealing with and experiencing, because she feels like every day is the same, like nothing changes. You know, so like that's pain body. That's like another thing that he talks about is
pain body,
like someone having a very dense pain body, like in a relationship, or like when you experience problems in a relationship, like it could be like, well, just any arguments, or like any kind of infidelity, that kind of like it makes your pain body more dense. But when you're able to like have a moment saying that, like, you know, like for instance, I could be like talking about myself and like kind of, you know, blowing out this sort of like sensationalized idea of like who I am and like my accomplishments and my success. Like when I'm able to speak about these things and like identify that as like my ego needs to be fed, and I'm conscious of that, then like I can have that moment where I'm sort of like, you know, yeah, this is totally ego. Or for like a big thing of it is that like when we would have conflict in relationships, or like when we'd have an argument, she would this is like kind of a thing that makes like my relationships really kind of like tumultuous, is that like when someone that I'm with and seeing that I love very, very deeply comes to me with a problem or a situation that they need to talk about, when they take that to me, my brain always wants to go on the defense and see that as an attack on me, and I see them attacking my sense of self, which goes back to the ego thing. So when I identify them saying that like, you have this problem, you're talking to me about this problem, my ego makes it so that like I need to be right, which is like, I see it as being attacked. Here are my reasons why I am right. And like, nobody really gets anything out of winning an argument. That's completely ego based.
Right.
But when you're able to identify that, when saying that, like, it could be anything, which is like, my brain's kind of like drawing a blank just because like I don't want to I don't want to like lose the point, but it's like, say that the girl I love has a problem with some behavior that I'm exhibiting. When she takes it to me and I'm able to listen to that and have a moment and think of like, okay, immediately you're going to have your reaction. You're going to have the things that you want to say. But when I have that moment to like slow down and say like, there's this that I could say, but if I say this, what is that gonna like? What am I productively getting out of that?
Right.
When I'm
What's
able,
the end goal?
when I'm able to identify my reaction and my response
Sweating my ass off.
take it off. But no, like when I'm able to have a moment to like process, like, you say this, I want to say this back. When I'm able to process like my response is being completely out of ego and my ego needing to be fed, that's when I can actually have a productive and fruitful discussion, you know, and it doesn't, and not make it about me winning an argument or me being right. You know, when two people are able to when two people are conscious in their relationship and are able to deal with situations like that and realize that like, I want to say this, I want to say this, when they're able to identify that it's out of ego, that's when you can really, really build a truly good and long lasting relationship. And the thing is, that's like, it's hard for somebody who is like a lot more conscious than someone who was like not as conscious.
That's so interesting because I've never thought of ego in that way. I've always attributed it to like perceived success and shit like that.
Right. And
but that you're absolutely right. Like that, I see myself doing shit like that all the time. Kim and I get into shit where for some reason somebody has to be the victor.
Right.
And that I never thought of it being as ego for some reason.
Yeah. And like, for anybody listening who could like who kind of has this idea that like speaking about, you know, things and stuff that I've done and that I've accomplished is just like being an ego-based thing, or like I've learned over the course of my life and like being a creative is that like success, whether it just be creative success or for you in your instance just like success with your life, success is very subjective. You know, I definitely now see myself as successful where, you know, a lot of people could be watching this and like they could not have any idea who the fuck I am. Have I accomplished some like really culturally changing amazing things? No. No. But the fact that like I am 28 and I never gave up on what I was passionate about. I'm still making music. I see that as like me being successful.
Well, that's awesome.
Because like at that point, I'm in the moment. When I'm in my studio and I'm making a song and it's flowing out of me and I'm making something, just like when I'm finished with it, I bounce that MP3 out and I listen to it on repeat for 30 minutes. That's when I feel successful. You know, and when I'm playing shows, even though the venue is 3/4 of the way empty, I can see 50 kids losing their shit to somebody I made in my bedroom. Yeah, I don't need 50,000 people. Like, yeah, you know, just find the good and like accepting and practicing gratitude for what you do have. Yeah, and like and what you're doing, you know. So like, I think in that regard, I find myself as successful. Where like me, kind of like this would be me kind of reinforcing what would be your ego, where it's like I look around this beautiful studio, this beautiful home in your family, and just like all the things that you've been able to, you know, make happen for yourself. I see you as successful, but it's at the same time like none of this shit, none of it makes you.
Interesting.
You know, because like at this end of the day, you're still Chris Duke to me, man, and you bought me vegan toppers, and we had a great talk. I think this is probably like the best talk I've had with somebody in quite a while.
Well, dude, it's that's why, like, before we recorded, we were kind of like bouncing back and forth as to whether we were going to do it or not. And this is not like the normal format. There's normally snacks and jokes and all kinds of shit, but there's a lot to you that I want to highlight. So, like, something that I have to do, like, pretty regularly so people don't think that, which is hilarious because there's all of these things that my ego was affecting that I didn't perceive as ego. Like, I'm glad that you said those things the way that you
Dude,
did.
sometime I'll come down. I'll bring those books for you. They're so eye-opening, and they're able to be read and digested in the manner of someone that, like, I wasn't aware of anything or any of the concepts I talked about it. But by the time I finished reading these books, like, just a really profound sense of just, like, learning and immediately being able to, like, apply that to my relationships and the people around, you know. So it's like, it's the first one is called The Power of Now.
Okay.
These are both by Eckhart Tolle. The first one is The Power of Now, and the first one that I actually bought that I read is called A New Earth, where it's like a new earth.
Is that the one with Will Smith?
No.
Oh,
But it's a new earth, awakening to your life's purpose.
Ah. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I was going to say was, like, there's this thing that I do, which is to point out that, like, I for a very long time, I shouldn't say very long time, but for a fairly lengthy time, at least a decade, I've said that I am a piece of shit. And the reason that I say that is I never want, like, I get that, like, I'm very friendly and I'm very, like, passionate and all of these things for to me, I always say that sincerity is the most important thing in the world. And so I want people to know that I sincerely appreciate them and da 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 da. However, I have done not so great things. And I say that because, like, Kim, like, for whatever strength I have for, like, making it through the shit that I've made it through, Kim has been there the whole time. Mm-hmm. So, like, she is just as, if not stronger than myself for sticking around and being able to find a way to cope with the weirdness that is Chris Duke, which is always weird, like, saying my name, but so, I mean, with you, the reason why I want to bring this stuff up is, like, people, I was a lot of people's first addict in their life. So there are people who survived the shit that we put them through. And I don't feel like people like that get highlighted enough. So, I mean, are there instances in your life, like, have you reflected on that at all?
Yeah, many. Especially recently, you know, like we talked about this earlier, where, like, a lot of times in, like, the past, I don't know, God, like 7 or 8 years in my life, there have been times where, like, you know, like, I'm 113 days clean from cocaine today.
Which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and just the amount that I was, like, doing on a daily basis, you know, like we talked about, when I was using, I used to numb myself and to kind of escape. Oh. And so I feel like in my moments of, like, escape, where I felt like a different person, I wasn't noticing and I wasn't conscious of the things that I would say and the things that I would do to people who, like, were in my life and, like, friends, acquaintances and everything. I didn't perceive that as harmful behavior, which afterwards I was made aware of that it was very harmful behavior. And I still had quite a period, like, you know, whoever it is, I've still had a fair period of time afterwards where they're still dealing with that pain, and I was never able to apologize, you know. And it's like I was just speaking to somebody, you know, a couple days ago, who was like, I told her, I was like, you know, just, I've noticed that people have, like, kind of, like, deleted me and unfollowed me on stuff, and you were one of them. I just kind of want to know why. You know, like, if there's some things that I did to make you have to distance yourself from me? And she gave me a very real and honest answer. And it was kind of, you know, like I think I knew for a while, but just like kind of having that affirmation like that. And she's like, you know, just like, I still love you, and I've stood by your side, like while, you know, I was accused of accused of several things. She's like, I've stood by that, but it's like when it got to be just more than one person, then like I had to distance myself from you, just like out of, because like it's
solidarity.
It's something that they had to do, and it's like, and I don't resent them for that.
Sure.
You know, so now I'm just at the point of where like I need to not only just like be aware of that, but you know, like I need to be able to move through these things now, where it's my behavior. Like I have everybody has like hurt somebody in their lives, you know, and when I'm made aware of me kind of like acting out and doing things that aren't me that have hurt others, I take it a lot deeper than a lot of other people, where it's like the chemical imbalance will come back into saying I'm a piece of shit. You know, and it's like the best thing that I can do now is that because I'm conscious of it, I have to move towards those feelings, and I need to practice more. And it's like whoever I have damaged, like if I can know who exact names and everything, and like what and why, and actually just be able to say that, like, I apologize to them, and how can I start to begin to make amends?
Sure.
Like it's good for everybody, but it's I understand at the same time that like because of like some things that have happened, like the severity of them, that it may be triggering to them. And the last thing that I want to do right now is, you know, to hurt again.
Right. Well, something that we said, or that was said when I was in treatment. Actually, I don't know if it was said or if it was just something that I like just kind of picked up on, which was the fact that sobriety doesn't make everything better. It simply gives you the state of mind to be able to handle the things with a clear mind now.
Right. I mean,
so,
I did cocaine because I wanted to feel better, but now I quit it because I want to be better.
Wow. That's fucking beautiful, dude.
Well, it's like it could apply to the same thing with, like, you know, with what you deal with as well.
Yeah, well, and yeah, and so like there was, but so the thing that like I kept seeing, and it's definitely like I have codependency issues too. Mm-hmm. So like when I was hearing you say like wanting to know the names and like if they're willing so that I can make amends, like I letting go of how, because addicts, and I'm not saying that you're like an addict to the extent of like myself or anybody else, but in that world, for some reason, we really want, because it brings a sense of relief. Like if you're able to let this individual know, like how, like at your absolute core, how apologetic and how sincere you are, that in the hopes of them receiving that will bring you relief.
Yeah, because like when that happened in the moment, I didn't perceive myself as hurting them. You know, and a lot of it I know it was because of my addiction. You know, like any kind of like chemical or substance addiction that someone with borderline personality disorder has is complete. It's
disaster.
It is. It honestly is. You know, because like that becomes. I try to use it as an escape on the daily. You know, and like when like things that I would do and say in periods of like when I felt like I was in my escape. When the high is gone, and you know, I was saying like, and I read back through the shit that I've said, I was like, this is not fucking me.
Yeah.
You know, but and it's like at the same time, I have to accept that like while I was in this state of mind or substance use, I still caused these people harm, and they're not going to see it the same way that I did. So it comes back to like I need to bring myself down to a point of empathy and understanding, and saying that like at the end of the day, I still had a choice, and I chose to allow what I was doing kind of like drive my decisions, or it's like I allowed myself that like I'm feeling these feelings of abandonment and sadness. I allowed that to like make me use,
I see what you're saying.
which in turn caused harm to them. But they're not gonna see that. They're just gonna see like me just being like a piece of shit, oversharing, and like doing these things. It doesn't soften the blow for them. So it's like I'm trying, like I want to be able to like make whoever that I have caused harm to understand that I am very sincerely like apologetic, and the only way that we can, because like I don't want this I don't want this kind of like sense of who I am to be in this person's mind forever. Sure. Because it's like they like how they essentially like think of me now is not who I am, and the way to deal with that is to like move towards these feelings that like I have brought upon you, and to apologize and to make amends, and in that term we are able to like move through them.
Sure. I mean, so I don't know if you've listened to any of the other, like the addiction podcast that we do, but one thing that I try to drive home on there is the thing that like helped me in my addiction is trying to apply as many objective truths as possible. And the biggest one was the disruption of the 3-step system. So your brain has a 3-step system. You have the midbrain, which is passive things that your body does so that you live, like breathing, blinking, shit like that. Your body knows that you need fuel, so it had to introduce a reward system, because getting food is not a passive thing. You have to, there's action, right? So there's an action that you need to take in order to get that thing. So the brain, through evolution, had to create dopamine, so that there's a net positive from introducing the food,
which there are receptors for in your brain as well.
Yep. So so the basic term is like, so your body says, or midbrain, step 1 says we need food. Talk to the contemplation stage, which is the limbic system. And the limbic system says, okay, midbrain says we're hungry. What are we going to do about that? We could go get Arby's. We could get Taco Bell. Fuck it. Let's go get Denny's. And so you say, okay, we're going to go get Denny's. How do we go get Denny's? And then that's the prefrontal cortex, which says, all right, let's go hop in the car and then we'll go get Denny's. When you introduce substance, your dopamine levels are doubled. Mm-hmm. So from the amount of use, eventually your brain has to literally carve out a new path to accommodate for this extra dopamine. Hey, Layla. But so because it has carved out this new pathway, that's now the bar for survival. So it has to constantly try to figure out how dare you, in these trying times, cough in this house.
I put my shirt up over my mouth, dude. There's been so many times like going out and getting groceries, I'll have my mask on and I'll still sneeze into my arm.
But anyway, so your brain eventually is like, we're not surviving as much as we're supposed to be surviving. So it skips step 2 and goes straight to action. And so because your brain is doing this rewiring, that's where the like irrational shit comes into play. So like, people say that like your true self comes out when you're drunk. It's total bullshit. Like there may be like you're hanging on to some lies or some secrets that blurred out because your inhibitions are a little loose. But really, what comes out is your most irrational self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, and it's like it's in those periods where I've been in my most irrational self that I have brought harm to others, which is the basis for, you know, any and all substance abuse addiction.
But so it's called,
you know,
the disease of choice. So you chose to use first. You had no choice over what that substance was going to do and like make you think that you needed that thing in order to survive and deal with whatever the fuck was going on.
Yeah, and,
you know what I mean?
No, I do.
I'm not trying to make excuses for you, but what I'm trying to say is like, you know, people say like, because we're the vehicles with which this information is relayed, right? Mm-hmm. So the things that you said to those people, because you're the vehicle with which that happened, they can't help but have an emotional attachment to you specifically and negating this other thing that was happening that is, again, I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's very real and like scientifically proven,
right,
that these irrational things, you're literally rewiring and carving paths out in your brain. Like there's some fucked up shit going on. Plus, statistically speaking, majority of addicts have some underlying mental health issue.
Yeah. And I think that's like a really big thing right now is cancel culture.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like one thing that like you just talked about, it's kind of like frustrating and like kind of sad to see with this whole cancel culture take place, where it's like, you know, I like at the end of the day when I was doing what I was doing to hurt these people, they're like, again, that's not me. Like it's my most irrational and like just most impulsive self, which is another thing with borderline personality disorders. Like my level of impulsivity is so fucking crazy. Like there's like the shopping sprees. Like I literally have like a 42 item spice rack, like restaurant size spice racks. Just like
that's hilarious.
You just had to buy it all in a week and a half.
Well, did we say this? I can't remember if we said this on mic or off mic, but people want people with mental health issues to act like they don't have mental health issues.
Yeah, I really wish I could.
Like, so people, yeah, because we seem confident in the things that we're saying right now and like seem to have an understanding that means every moment of every day we are therefore capable of being quote unquote normal people, when really we're doing our fucking best. Like, to go back to what you're saying about your upbringing, like we're doing our fucking best, but yeah, we're not the same.
Yeah, but like if I could not feel any of the things that I feel on a day-to-day basis, I would be willing to like go in your bathroom and wake up in an ice bath with one of my kidneys missing right now. But I can't. So like the only way that I can deal with it is to like choose to be conscious of it and like choose to move towards these feelings and these memories, and like in turn, like the only way that we're gonna heal them is like by forgiveness. When you forgive everything,
now, when you say forgive, are you talking about yourself?
I'm talking about just like just in general for anybody and everybody. Like when people are able to practice forgiveness, like true forgiveness, everything just fucking works.
I think I get what you're trying to say, but forgiveness is a little too broad. I think really it's the understanding and acceptance part that is what helps people move forward.
Yeah.
Because forgiveness is not like an essential human right? Like there are people in my life that I would not give two fucks if they died tomorrow. Like I get that makes me a horrible human, but I love 99.9% of the people on this fucking planet, but there are some that I just could fucking live without. That being said, the majority of the people, like, I don't have an extreme viewpoint towards. The people that I do have the extreme viewpoint towards, it's because of the shit that they've done to other human beings and feel that it's okay, and then chose to make a living off of being horrible to other human beings.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is the acceptance part allows for closure if what needs to be done is that chapter is now closed, right? So between you and these other people, they can say, I accept, like, you know, what you've been through, and I accept these, you know, yada, yada, yada. I can't help, like, they can't help the way that they feel. They can't help if there is some level of trauma associated with it, or if it stirred up other moments of trauma. They're not going to be able to control those feelings any more than we can, like the chemical imbalances that we have, right?
Yeah, and then just like I don't want people to, like, what do I say?
Are you looking for?
I had something, but like,
I get where you're going. Like, so you don't want there. So, and ironically, like a byproduct of our mental health issues is a lot of all or nothing thinking. And and cancel culture is like an extreme. It really is like somebody with bipolar disorder out in culture. Like, so this all or nothing thinking and choosing to be ignorant to any circumstance that could have led to a thing is, yeah, you're being ignorant to, like I've been saying for years that Louis C.K. was not just a dark comic. It's very clear that he has dark issues that, like, comedians, musicians, like, we're tormented artists. Like, you can't elevate us and expect that we're going to be able to function like other human beings. Yeah. Like, especially when ego gets in the way and we're being elevated because of the tormented shit that we went through. We feel like we don't have to actually deal with anything because things are getting better.
Yeah, that's reinforcing that false sense of self.
Yep.
Where it's like, okay, I got big off of telling like dark humor jokes about like my little sister dying when I was like 7 years old. I think it's like Daniel Sloss. But like, definitely check out some Daniel Sloss because some of his Sloss. He's got 2 things on Netflix and 1 thing on Amazon Prime. Definitely very, very profound. Very profound, like, lessons and like things that he
does he
talks
have
about
his own
there.
brand of coleslaw? Because Daniel Sloss would be fucking awesome,
right? But like, I think the thing I was saying about what frustrates me with cancel culture is that, like, it's putting out this notion that, like, these people who deal with things like substance abuse and, you know, some very, very deep, dark, internalized trauma for themselves, while when they are enacting things out that hurt other people, where it's like, I have a hard stop at rape, you know, like,
oh, of course,
but like, you know, just like saying some like really stupid shit or battling an addiction. Like, I feel like cancel culture is like something, it's putting out this notion that these people don't deserve to better themselves, or that they will always be this way.
Oh, sure.
You know,
well, the movement started because of a very clear systemic and historical problem that's been going on for far too fucking long. I get that. Like,
yeah, for sure.
There are some people who, I mean, for every like person that's miscanceled, there are like 100 more that definitely deserve to be canceled. So like, if I was telling somebody this example a couple weeks ago, but when I was still doing stand up at the Keller Bar, what we would try to do before the show started is we would try to get people to move up, so that they could, you know, be more engaged and this and that. And I'm naive to, or I just was not aware of the amount of shit that was going on towards females, like on a personal level. Like, it just, I don't see it as much. I hear it, but I don't see it firsthand.
Yeah, well, just like we're men.
Right. Well, I unfortunately have far too many friends that have dealt with a lot of shit. But that being said, so we're trying to get people to move up forward. There's a table of girls. I go up and I say, hey guys, how's it going? I don't know if you know there's a show going on, but there's tons of room up there. And a girl looked at me and goes, ew, no. And I could have been like, what a fucking bitch. But there's a million thoughts racing through my head. And the main one that kept coming up was that they're bothered so often when they go out that I'm just another guy doing that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Me feeling uncomfortable is nothing compared to the other situations that could happen to them throughout that night.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same.
You know what I'm
Because
saying?
it's not. And like I mentioned Daniel Sloss because on his Amazon special, he has this bit where he talks about...
Is he a comedian?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
a comedian. I think he's Scottish, but he's hilarious. But on his Amazon special, there's a moment of his show where he talks about... he says that every guy alive is sick of this all men are trash narrative.
Right.
So if you're sick of it, if you're sick of that conversation, feel free to fucking change it. And the only way that we can change it is by actively
working against that. Yeah.
Like holding your friends accountable.
Well, and holding yourself accountable too. Because I was, like I said, I was naive and maybe to an extent ignorant to the fact that some random dude by being friendly, these girls are going to accept me and want to do what I ask them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a very naive thing for me to think.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than like they see a show and maybe they'll come up front. Or
right.
like maybe on the mic just saying, hey guys, there's room up here. Feel free to come up front. Rather than feeling like, people will just trust me.
Yeah. So he's saying that like if we want to change the conversation, we have to actively speak out. Where if you have 10 dudes in a line and one of them is a complete piece of shit, but the other 9 dudes don't do anything about it, you got 10 fucking shitty dudes.
Right.
So because a friend of mine, because I was able to have this conversation with them where they said that they distanced themselves from me because they were holding me accountable for shit that I was doing that was hurting others. My way of like, I want to change the conversation because like I want to do it in a way where it's like I wish I could speak to these people that I did hurt and I could apologize and begin to make amends because I do want to change the conversation because it's like when that happened, that wasn't me, but this is me now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's tough because like I don't deserve an apology from those girls that I spoke to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the what you do deserve is to be able to move forward and make new friends or to make new relationships and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But once a thing has been done, we have relinquished the right to be able to have some type of chance of having a normal friendship, relationship, whatever.
And then I think that's
I
think that's just one thing that like cancel culture is just like kind of put out that like once you've been canceled, that's all you fucking deserve for the rest of your life.
Oh, you don't deserve anything after the fact.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like God, I mean, like there's been times where like I've thought about it where it's like if it ever got to the point where I was executed publicly over some shit that like I did that I didn't realize I was hurting others when I was doing it in a point of pain and like I'm not gonna sit here and deny that like what I may have said and done that I've heard of other people that like I should automatically just have a pass for it because like I was fucked up or something like that, because I don't. But it's
right.
if I'm actively trying to change the conversation and better myself and like wanting to apologize and wanting to make amends. I'm trying to change the conversation. I'm trying to change myself now, but it's like if I'm hung like that and like I lose music, I'm not going to get booked anywhere else. Like that one part of my brain that has that imbalance, that's going to flip that switch off where it's like it's not going to be an if I'm going to end my life. It's when and how.
Yeah.
And it's like I think it's something that's like I see it as not being fair because when I was talking to my friend, she's like, this conversation wasn't had because it's like people aren't planning on outing you or anything. It's more just about like
keeping others safe.
Yep. So it's like when you're speaking to him, be mindful that these are things that he's done before. So she said that the best thing that you can do right now is to reflect and actively work on changing yourself to be better, which I feel like I am trying to do. And it's if these girls aren't at the point of where they're ready to have a conversation with me yet, or if ever, it's wrong for me to be resentful of that because because like by choosing to be resentful of that, where it's like, just like I just want to talk to them and like make everything okay, just because like,
can I get a hug?
Yeah, just where it's like, because like I know, because like I'm conscious of it now, where it's like I've had that thought before, like I've had the thought where it's like, yeah, I do want to talk to these girls that like I have hurt and I have caused damage to, but it's like it's not.
Well, that goes back to those abandonment issues.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, it's like I'm not saying that like I have to do it just because I want them to think of me better, and for me to resent them not wanting to have a conversation with me just so I could change what their idea of my sense of self is about me. That's an ego thing. I need to be more empathetic, and I need to be more conscious of that. Like at the end of the day, you caused these people pain just because they're not ready to talk to you now, or if ever. That doesn't make them a bad person, and for me to be bitter about that is that's human. It's insanity, and I'm not like insanity
right.
like
No. Insanity is simply by definition doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But you raise an interesting point, which is I think that the comfort that could be had is them knowing that you moving forward are not going to be doing these things.
Yeah.
Right? That you're so like the peace of mind that like they don't have to worry about you going out and this thing happening to other people.
Yeah.
So I think like in that regard, like that's what cancel culture is meant, like for the disenfranchised. That's what it's meant to do, right? Is to make sure that these people don't have the platform to be able to, because they're not saying that you're not allowed to be a citizen anymore. Like you're still in America, you can still get a 9 to 5, But I think that is a super important thing. Like if these individuals can know that, because if that's the goal, right? That they don't want you to have the platform to be able to, well, and I mean, they've said that they don't want you to not have the platform, but if the goal is like for other individuals who are like truly canceled to not have the platform to be able to do more harm.
Yeah. And
if they could know that like there is sincere change that is going to happen in that individual, because maybe they were naive to like, oh, I just assumed that people trusted me or wanted me in this way, and therefore I acted this way.
Right. I mean, like, I think there's varying.
Does that make sense? What I was trying to say?
No. It does, and like I think, especially now, I think a problem that is very prominent is that like when people are getting canceled, so to speak, and they put out the apology, they make the apology about themselves. And
like Louis C.K.'s was fucking garbage.
Yeah.
And he wanted people to get over it. So like that dude like has a lot of issues that somebody needs to fucking make him deal with.
Or like, oh God, one of the worst was Kevin Spacey's.
Oh,
just a raging anal fucking garbage fire. Unbelievable, but what I'm saying is that like when these people are called out like that, they make it about themselves, and
right.
So like they're like, that's a complete like, and I think that again that goes back to like an ego based thing, like, okay, so Kevin Spacey molested like male co-stars, and like he just like chose that to like use it as an opportunity to come out. Like when you have several people come forth about like some some shit that you're fucking doing that's hurting people, you can't like, it's okay to like trace it back to like, I have these issues where like, and like when I was acting out, that was not coming from a place of like of who I actually am. So it's like people, these people, they apologize and like they make everything like just completely based off of like they're refusing to take accountability for their actions.
Right.
Or like in some cases like people like Datsik, like when Datsik was called out, because like
I don't know anything about that.
Well, like Datsik is like a DJ, a producer guy who was like he's very well documented history of like being a predator. And like so like in that case I think it's different because he had a position of power and influence, and he was knowingly getting people fucked up to the point of where consent wasn't black and white, and exercising his point of power over it to harm others.
Yeah.
I think when you have things like mental illness and substance abuse, which is like both of those together is just a cocktail for absolute self-destruction, especially with borderline personality disorder, dude, because like another big attribute of this kind of illness is that self-sabotage, which is like another reason why I have very tumultuous relationships. It's at my hands. Every relation.
That's what I was trying to get at earlier too. Was like,
just like every single relationship that I've had in my life that's ended, it's me leaving first because I don't want them to leave me, which goes the abandonment issues, you know, or like, especially just this last relationship that I've had, and like we talk a lot about this too, and like I bought her a couple books to read up on like borderline personality disorder, and I know that she's read them because we're definitely at a point in our relationship where she is starting to set boundaries for herself, you know, and which is like at first I didn't see that as that, you know, where it's just like, you know, just like we both have our own shit going on, and she's like, I still have nothing but love for you, and I have hope for our future. But like right now, I need the space and the time to be able to help myself, because she feels like she's codependent on me. And because of that, I would see her codependency on me is that like she's my like I kind of internalized that as like my responsibility. So when she started setting boundaries for herself, saying like, you know, maybe we shouldn't talk every single day, every day, FaceTime every night, because she says that it makes it harder for herself to help herself. She doesn't want to be at this point that she's at now, where she feels like she needs to come to me about everything, and like she needs me to fix all of her problems, because she sees that as an unfair thing to do to me. And just because of with my mental illness, when she says that and she's enforced and then she's setting boundaries, just I see that abandonment, you know, and because I see that as abandonment, like, yep, act out, you know. So then that like that kind of like, you know, and especially when I was using, when she was having those things where it's just like, you know, just like I just need space to be able to like deal with what's going on with me. I would see that as abandonment, which would trigger my drug use, and like immediately have to feel that need to go and like entertain other options at the time, just because like I couldn't deal with being abandoned. I couldn't deal with being alone so much that like I felt like I needed to have somebody else there, which is not a very fair thing for me to do. Which really, September 18th is my sober date.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then that like really kind of like triggered my need to where it's like, not only is that like have I been made aware that like I've hurt other people in like the peak of like, you know, me using, is that like it's caused problems in my relationship now, where it's like me using perpetuates the problems that we have, and she can't trust me again right now, because like I would say that like I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna work on myself, I'm gonna put this shit down, but I never did. You know, she's like, I don't know, she's like actually said this, but I know that she's felt it, where if I can't do those things to help me, how am I gonna do them in a relationship?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, and it's just like I got nothing but fucking love for this girl, you know. And you know, you've seen me be with several people over the course of my life. Yeah. And you know, it's
the thing that I've thought of with you, and I think like the similarities that I see, or like, because like part of my codependency issues is finding a point to relate and coming up with either an analogy or an example as to why I understand like who you are and your intention. But because we're so sincere and so kind to others, when somebody sees us do wrong, it's double worse, because they were able to be so invested in us because we were willing to be so invested in them, that now it's like a betrayal on top of a betrayal, because it's like, I fucking let my walls down because you were so open and you were so sincere in all of these things. Like, I've done that. That's like historically the worst part about me is I am so quick to let people in and be as kind as possible so that they feel good and they feel comfortable and supported, that when I'm shitty, it's like, fuck, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying it's wrong that, like, when you are shitty, I'm not saying that it's wrong for them to be hurt. I just think that, like, a lot of times in those circumstances that, like, when you're being made aware that you are hurting somebody else, no one takes it harder than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the second that you're made aware of it, you're like, oh, God, that's sinking. Like, it feels like all of the blood drains from the top and goes straight down.
Feels like drowning, man.
Oh, I fucking hate it. Nothing makes me feel worse.
You know, it feels like drowning, you know, and it's just like, I know that, like, right now that the only way for me to move through this pain is just like I'm conscious of it now, and like I accept accountability for the shit that I've done. And like while me acting out and hurting these people came from a place that it was essentially not me, I still have to accept responsibility for it. And instead of being like, you know, like, hey, I have all these problems, I did this and that, you know, like, I'm gonna go get
social media makes it worse too, because if you post a photo, that's perceived as, oh, they don't care, they don't realize how much they've hurt me. Like, I've noticed that, like, when people get canceled is right after they post some amazing thing, and the people that they've hurt go, I've fucking had it. It's so unfair that you're doing all of this. Like Chris D'Elia, when he got canceled, like, people were just fucking sick of it. Like, they were like, we can't fucking take this anymore, man. I mean, you keep doing this shit and it keeps getting rubbed in our faces.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of like why it's hard for me to get pictures taken to me, or like for the last year, like this song I'm putting out in 2 days. It's my first song in like over a year.
That's it. Okay. I'm putting you in my fucking bathing shorts. You're getting in that tub. It's going to be fucking rad.
Yeah.
But okay,
you know,
sorry,
and just like, going. And especially in like social,
that's very interesting.
And then you know, especially into like social media, that like people just see the good. You know, everything is like kind of sensationalized. Yeah. You know, so it's like, I feel, I don't know. I think a lot of like what happened to do this last year too is that, like, as much as I wanted to like keep putting out shit and like keep doing my own shit, we're really, I mean, especially around May, like I moved back to my mom's in May. It was when the protests were happening in Minneapolis. Oh. I definitely felt that black voices were something that needed to be focused on and needed to be heard a lot more than just a white kid who was, you know, making black music, you know, like dance music. Wow. I mean dance music, dude, that's black music.
Absolutely.
Pretty much every kind of, like, let's just take a moment to like understand real quick that pretty much every music alive today is from black culture. Dude, rock and roll came from blues. That's black music, my guy.
I have a joke. I've only done it a couple of times, but I have this joke that I was doing on stage where I think the reason why, like, white people, and this was before all the protests and shit happened, like, you could just feel it bubbling. I feel like when white people are like, oh, what, black people can't be racist? They absolutely can be racist. Sure. But
we deserve it.
But also what you're looking for is an excuse. Like, you're looking for confirmation bias. So the joke was, I think the reason why white people are getting so, you know, agitated and like trying to like say that all lives matter and all that shit is that let's say all of the, like, the black community was like, all right, cool, we're all going to be racist. We're not going to accept whites anymore. We're going to segregate ourselves. Right? The reason why white people seem to be afraid of that is because they would lose all the cheat codes for being cool. Music.
Fuck, yeah. Yeah.
Music, out. Fashion, done.
Yeah.
Big dicks. Well, we never had that, but...
No.
But you know what I mean? Like, the sentiment was... And the funny thing was, the first time that I did it, there was one huge black guy in the crowd. And he was the only one that was, like, with me on it. Everyone else seemed super uncomfortable, and I pointed it out. I was like, "It's just me and you, guy." But like, there's this. Yeah, it's very interesting that like the people that I see getting the most worked up about this whole like not all white people are racist. We're not fucking saying that, but you have to accept that there's a pretty clear systemic issue that's been going on and continues to go on.
Well, yeah, there absolutely is. I mean,
and that also accepting that doesn't mean you're accepting a fault of yourself. If you choose to do nothing, who said this? My friend Conrad told me this because we had to cancel a friend of ours, and it was gut wrenching because like he had been friends with this dude, this comic, since he was in elementary school. And without him, I would not still have this podcast. I would not have done as well as I did in stand up to whatever degree. But we had to let him go. And I said, the curse of knowledge, man. And he said, knowledge is only a curse if you choose to do nothing with it. And it's like that. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what like I've been feeling when I learn shit. It's like, it's a curse if you're just sitting with it. You just let it fester in there.
Right.
So, I mean, white people, just get the fuck over it, man. Just accept it and be like, hey, man, I'm sorry that that's going on. Oh, dude, I've told this story a million times. So, listeners, if you want to hear it, go listen to our episode with Paul Fletcher and Spencer.
Okay.
But I'll tell you off air. But we've been recording for 2 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's so much fun because there's so much to you that like there's still like probably 3 or 4 other things that I want to talk about. So I'll do.
Oh, for sure.
We'll have to have you back when Kim's here so that she can because she's good at like pointing out like obviously because she works in the mental health field, so like she knows a lot of shit.
Oh yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
But dude, so
shout out to Kim real quick. By the way,
shout out to Kim Duke
holding it down
and that banging booty of yours. My God,
she's a legend.
She is a legend. But I mean, tell the people what you got going on, man. I think you're worth investing in, listeners. I'm telling you that. I think Jerrod is worth investing in. So please, the socials.
Well, this is like the hot ones, like. This camera.
Exactly.
I have a new single coming out on the 11th with Tara. He recently rebranded to Peyton. Gosh,
okay.
Shout out to Peyton. God, just hunk, sweetheart, absolutely amazing. Very, very, very good person. Very amazing artist. I have a new song coming out in 2 days. I'm working on putting out an EP this year.
So this will come out Monday.
Yeah, this will come out Monday. I'm working on putting out an EP. I have about 5 songs selected that I'm kind of like still shopping for vocalists to like kind of really just drive the message of the song home. I think the EP is going to be called Darker. It's I'm planning on doing like a concept sort of thing where it's like there'll be darker and it'll be songs that I've made over the course of maybe the past 2 years of my life when I've been in a darker spot. A lot of the songs are very kind of like they're kind of like really abrasive, very really heavy, you know, and I want to evolve that where the next EP after that will be called Brighter, where it's songs with more of a positive message and like taking the bad and like turning it into good. So
sure.
Darker, I would look for that definitely some point later this year whenever I finish it. But I'm gonna tell the truth right now. I got an EP that's never coming out. But no, definitely that new song in the first 2 days.
So where can people find these?
It'll be on Play for Keeps is going to be on all major streaming services. We got Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon Music, maybe Pandora if Pandora's not dead in the ground. But definitely Spotify. It's coming out on High Caliber Records. Shout out to High Caliber Records. Those are good homies of mine. Couple days, Monday. Really excited. I've had this song made for over.
So
I've had this song.
This episode comes out Monday.
This episode does.
Yeah. So today, right?
God, I'm gonna God, link in the description.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And then all of the socials.
Yeah. Illuminary 612 on Facebook. Illuminary Music on everything else. There's Instagram. There's Spotify. There's Instagram. There's Twitter.
You got TikTok?
I do.
Do you really?
I have a single TikTok. It's not great.
It's funny because I remember making fun of Facebook, and now look at Facebook.
Dude, if I was doing it right, I would be harnessing TikTok to its fullest extent.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta like find that next viral TikTok soundbite and make a remix out of it and post it on there, and then get like 100,000 new followers.
You gotta like for a drop in a song, like have somebody come kick you in the nuts, and then it'll go viral.
See, I was thinking about doing the 22 Jump Street thing. My name's Jeff. My name's Jeff.
Ooh, that was filthy. Okay, well, you're awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna play some rhythm.
All right, thanks, guys. Make sure you subscribe. I'm assuming I'm releasing this on the Duck Duck Grey Duke channel. We have 3 different RSS feeds now. Yeah, Duck Duck Grey Duke, definitely. Well, maybe I'll release it on 2 of them.
Okay.
Wherever you're listening to this, thanks. Subscribe to whatever channel this is on. It'll be fucking dope. And actually, yeah, we got time. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp.com. You can support the podcast by supporting your mental health. They have thousands of licensed therapists, psychologists, and like it's so hard to find a therapist. I don't know if you've ever Googled like a psychiatrist or anything.
I haven't had health insurance for like the past 3 years.
Okay. Well, anyways, trying to find one is like, it sucks. Even if you find one, that person's booked out for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
BetterHelp, they can pair you up with somebody, and I think it's 48 hours. It's a very short window of time. And then you have access to email, chat, phone calls.
Wow.
Like, it's fucking incredible. Those guys are awesome. So BetterHelp.com/DDGD is the acronym for the show. Again, support the podcast by supporting your mental health. All right. Peace be with you.
Thanks, guys.